Representatives from the rail industry met the Prime Minister in Downing Street this afternoon. It was one in a series of meetings after the Hatfield disaster. But its timing was even more critical after the Virgin train derailment near Glasgow last night. Caroline Kerr reports.
Downing Street this evening, and once again Britain's railways are near the top of the political agenda. The new rail track boss, passenger representatives and the Transport Minister were among those summoned to number 10 as the Prime Minister himself tries to get a grip on the chaotic situation on the railways. The timing couldn't be more apt. This afternoon, just over a month since Hatfield, another train lies derailed, this time on the outskirts of Glasgow, yet another blow to public confidence in rail travel. Last night, 400 passengers had to be helped to safety after the front three coaches came off the rails. 4 people were injured. Today, rail investigators have been searching for the cause of the derailment. Railtrack officials say vandalism hasn't been ruled out. They say the line had been recently checked.
The locality was inspected on Wednesday, and after Wednesday's inspection there was no indication that immediate action was required.
Whatever the causes of last night's accident, there's no doubt that 6 weeks after the Hatfield crash, the public is becoming increasingly frustrated with a dysfunctional railway service. But after tonight's Downing Street meeting, there were no firm promises that things would get better, only sympathetic words.
Passengers are fed up with what is going on at the moment. Their patience is now running very, very thin. And what we do need is we need some collective thinking and some collective responsibility taken by the industry now to accelerate the process of improving the railway.
The fact is, no amount of Downing Street summits will bring much consolation to tonight's commuters, who continue to face the familiar combination of late-running trains and cancellations, with little prospect of much improvement until the new year. Caroline Kerr, ITN, Central London.
The schoolboy has been awarded £3.5 million in damages after he was paralysed by a motorist who was driving within the speed limit. Jamie Webb was 7 when he was knocked down. He's now confined to a wheelchair. The High Court heard that residents had repeatedly warned the driver to cut his speed. The mother of the murdered schoolgirl Sarah Payne said today she was very positive about the new evidence which has been uncovered in the search for her daughter's killer. Detectives say the scrap of blue material they have found does belong to the dress Sarah wore on the day she was abducted, although it may be too badly damaged now to yield any clues. Here's Adrian Britton.
If the clothing found in this country lane is Sarah Payne's, then in theory it could be a vital breakthrough. Yet in this inquiry, possible new leads don't come without frustrations. Since Sarah was murdered 5 months ago, police search teams have scoured the local countryside for her clothes, hopeful that forensic tests would identify the killer. These black shoes and blue Fred Perry dress are replicas of the ones 8-year-old Sarah was wearing when she was abducted on the 1st of July. The day after, a woman driving near the village of Coolham, 10 miles away, ran over identical clothing in her car, but didn't report the matter to police until September. Only now has a shoe and fragments of a dress been found, cut up, most probably by a hedge trimmer, and over a mile away from the witnesses' sightings.
The hedges were trimmed in that area in July. We also had very bad rain and weather conditions in the area, so the items could have been actually just washed down the road or taken by traffic.
The findings give some clues as to the killer's movements after the murder. The shoe and dress fragments were found a mile south of Coolham. Sarah's right shoe was found in July just north of the village. Her body was discovered several miles away near Pulborough. Even if the clothing proves to be Sarah's, the items have been out in the open for so long that realistically the chance of finding any forensic evidence which identifies the killer must be small. Adrian Britton, ITN, West Sussex.
The latest in the Sarah Payne murder inquiry. There's more to come on the ITV Evening News, including controversy as the Duchess of York tells her daughters to count calories, the face of naked hatred in a divided city, and it's already the wettest autumn ever, and it could get worse. All that when we come back.
Absolutely freezing out there.
Right, 1 sweet and sour.
sour pork.
That's me.
Eggs bouillon, that was yours, wasn't it, Tracy?
Oh, I think so.
3 chicken and black bean sauce.
Actually, one of those is mine.
Television?
That's me. Oh, I always order the wrong thing.
TV to take away. On digital prepaid. More TV this Christmas.
Pick up any BT Cellnet Pay and Go internet phone and get 500 minutes of free internet calls a month for 3 months. You might find it hard to put down. This Christmas, surf the net, surf the BT Cellnet. Call 0800 40 50 30.
One margarita, a vegetarian, quattro for Margie, and hers was the on digital prepaid with a side order of internet.
Prepaid Plus. TV and internet to take away.
Welcome back to the ITV Evening News. The headlines so far. The Deputy Prime Minister John Prescott has been criticised for what was described as his chauvinist attitude by France's Environment Minister. George W. Bush has declared himself the next President of the United States, but his Democrat rival Al Gore hasn't given up the fight. And the government plan to issue health warnings with mobile phones in time for Christmas has been delayed. The Duchess of York was criticised today for teaching her daughters to count the calories. She describes how she does it in a new book sponsored by Weight Watchers. But some health experts aren't impressed because they claim that excessive dieting leads to eating disorders. The Duchess says she was simply being a responsible mother, and this afternoon her former husband agreed. Libby Vina reports.
The Duke of York, visiting school children in flood-hit Kent today, sprang to the defence of his former wife over criticism that she was encouraging their daughters to diet.
I think I would turn around and say to you that perhaps people are making comments that they don't know what they're talking about.
In the past, the Duchess of York, who earns £1 million a year as an ambassador for Weight Watchers International, has described how she was stung by jokes about her figure.
Then it was Fat Fergie, which gave way to Fat and Appalling Fergie, and ultimately my favourite and the best one of all, whoever thought it up, Fergie the Duchess of Pork. Yes. You're right, I can stand up here and I can laugh. But boy did it hurt.
Now the Duchess stands accused of making the Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie worry about their weight by teaching them to help her count calories. In a new book which is sponsored by Weight Watchers, the Duchess says, "It's a game. They test my knowledge, as in, Mummy, how many points for the 2 brownies you're about to eat? I use the knowledge and skills I use daily to control my weight to teach and nurture my daughters who are not comfort eaters. Experts in eating disorders say that's inappropriate."
I wouldn't like to say that this is going to cause them to suffer from anorexia nervosa, but it certainly is going to make them obsessed with food and feel guilty about what they eat, which can't be a good start for anybody.
It's the hardest thing in the world, staying on a diet.
The Duchess has often made light of her own eating problems, once blaming Buckingham Palace sausage rolls for her weight gains. But she was angry at today's criticism, a spokeswoman saying she'd merely been trying to teach her daughters to eat well, and airing a subject that in her own childhood had been a taboo. Libby Vina, ITN.
The former Southampton football manager David Jones appeared in court today, charged with serious offences relating to children. Jones arrived at Liverpool Crown Court with his wife Anne. The case goes back to the 80s when he was a care worker at a children's home in Merseyside. He denies the charges. The trial was adjourned until tomorrow. It's now 60 days since the start of the latest round of violence between Israeli troops and Palestinians. In that time, thousands of Palestinians have been under 24-hour curfew in the heavily divided area of Hebron. The curfew was briefly lifted today, but it only served to expose the tensions between Palestinians and the 400 Jewish settlers who live there. Our senior correspondent Mark Austin spent the last 24 hours in Hebron to send this report.
For the last 60 days,